Let's see how to upset high serve big forehand players in Tour 7 of Tennis Clash, a sports game published by Wife Live Studios. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel Gameplay 365 if you like this video and to turn on the bell. So we start with a Victoria high serve player having a backhand which is not too bad. 62 is quite decent to play. So her backhand is not really weak. However, her agility is low anyway. And here in the first match, her accuracy was not legendary. The first serve didn't win. Yep. Didn't go very well. And it was sometimes quite inaccurate as well. So, to upset high serve players, you have to target mainly their weakest hand, meaning most of the time their backhand. Because, well, it's much easier with all cards to have a build having high serve and big forehand than high serve and big backhand. That's why you often see a strong forehand and a weak backhand. So I repeat, it's not really the case for this first opponent here, because she has chosen to have a decent backhand. She had card 4. But if you choose the joker cards and that you play with a character having a decent agility, 84 is decent for Tour 7. I would not even say that it's high. For that level of trophies, that's quite normal to have 84. And versus a lot of opponents, 84 is quite low actually. I play versus a lot of opponents having 87, 89, 88, 90, 91. And of course versus high serve players, where you don't have any problem of agility, you just have to position your character correctly. And then after that you just choose whether you target the backhand of your opponent, the weaker backhand, or you can choose to wrong foot your opponent by playing on her forehand, like here, because she anticipates you to hit on her backhand, and then she would position her character accordingly to be ready to hit with a big forehand, to turn around and hit with her forehand. And in that case, you can wrong foot her by hitting on her forehand. See, it didn't work much because she was quite close, quite near the ball. But you can choose to hit on her forehand, and then after that outflank her by hitting on the backhand. That works quite well. No more rematch here. Let's open those bags. So obviously, to upset the high serve big forehand players is easier to do with Kaito, which has a higher agility than with Victoria. But you can do that with Victoria too. Of course, you need to put on your joker cards. It's easier to reach more balls so as to receive correctly. and to have the long catch effect, which you don't have with the Maestro Monty. The Maestro Monty will not be useful at all to play versus high serve players because by the nature of the opposition of styles, well, you don't have much rallies versus high serve big forehand players. They are mostly like 4 or 5 hits max after the serve, so you won't lose a lot of stamina.
2, 4.
So if you are very confident that you can read your opponent's hitting pattern, or you are confident that you can receive correctly even with nylon string, well, this is one of the rare play styles that you can counter with a nylon string, along with the volley style.
5, 4.
Well, to counter the volley style with nylon string, of course, your opponent needs to have a serve which is not too high. Same thing with the high serve big forehand players. If you see that your opponent doesn't have a very high serve, very strong serve, then you can go with the nylon string. Otherwise, you should choose a secure option and play with the choker course. That will give you a much better chance to win. As you can see, that's very tricky for your high serve opponent to choose a side, because, well, she knows that you will hit most of the time on her backhand, which is weak, but she knows as well that you may sometimes choose to wrong foot her by hitting on her forehand. As you can see, for my serve, even if I had a very low serve stats, I managed to outflank my little opponent here, very simply because he was expecting me to hit on her on his backhand, meaning his right hand, yeah, because Leo was left-handed. Yep, he was reading very well here. So this opponent is an old-time player. I had seen him since a very long time in Tennis Clash, but I haven't faced him a lot lately.
3, 2.
He was quite well ranked before the big update, but apparently the big update didn't do good to him. So yeah, either he was overconfident or he was thinking that it will be a bit difficult. He chose to play with the nylon string, which is very uncommon in Tour 7. I can tell you that almost nobody is playing with nylon string, but a lot of high serve players can play with the nylon string, actually. Generally, they put on the Maestro Monty. Yep, an ace with my poor serve stats. That shows you that you can have a 38 serve. Shows you that you can easily wrong foot your opponent, your high serve opponent, because he will have a lower stamina at the end of the match, and then he expects you to hit preferably on his backhand. So here my opponent doesn't have a very strong serve, but a quite decent backhand. The accuracy is a big problem for her. 220, 290 kilometers per hour for the serve, but it's either out of the service box or in the net. So,
3. Love.
yep. Honestly, I would prefer to serve
3.
at my speed
1.
because I have played with the high serve big forehand too. Of course, I'm not a specialist, but I know a bit how to play with it, and
1.
I would almost prefer to serve with my poor speed of 180 or 190 kilometers per hour, but in the service box, than hitting 220 kilometers per hour and all the time almost out the service box, making double faults. This is useless. So of course, she can counterbalance with a big forehand behind when it's about receiving, but you know, this is useless because you have lost the match well before. Yep, one of the rare time I turn on the chat. I was turning the chat on for another to play versus another opponent beforehand, and after that I didn't turn it off. I generally don't turn it on because it's a bit annoying sometimes. You see a lot of people trying to disturb you by sending a lot of emojis.
Love.
I mean, not all players, not all opponents would do that, but a lot can do that. So this is a match that I have shown already
Love.
in another compilation. So you see it again because it's a compilation of matches versus high serve big forehand
3. Love.
players here. But and Fozzy is one of the. He's in the top 100. And yes, he's one of the top 100 players
Love.
who uses this style quite well.
4. 1.
He's doing very good in big weekly tournaments with that style. In the previous Pride Open big weekly tournament, he was
1.
ranked 5th or 6th at the end of the tournament, playing with the high serve big forehand. So he knows how to play with that for sure. He's a kind of a specialist. It works better for him when it's capped at level 9,
3.
like in the big weekly tournament condition, than in the Tour 7 when cards are capped at level 12, and then because he doesn't have very high level cards, not yet, I mean, that doesn't allow him to express fully his potential. But yes, that was very funny to hit an ace here. So weird. As you can see, it's not the first time I hit an ace with a 38 of serve. Oh, at the time I had a 36 of serve, yeah. Didn't level up on cards yet. So here's Kaito versus an ITB opponent. So of course you had to expect this to see a dirty trick, sending
Love.
the forehand or the backhand way above the baseline and hoping for the opponent to catch it
1.
on the fly with a volley. Whenever I see ITB, I expect her to do that, him or her, depending on the character, to do that at least once during the match. But generally,
1. 2.
once they have seen that you guess that they are going to do that, they stop doing that.
2.
Because they know that it will not work versus you. So they just discourage and they stop doing that.
3. 2.
I mean, that's just a trick like others, but it's not really cool. Yep, that's what I'm talking about.
4.
This trick shot
Fault.
And in the heat of the rally, sometimes you may not have the head cool enough to let the ball fly out, and you will catch it, and then your opponent will laugh. Haha, you have been tricked. Yep, this Victoria couldn't do anything here. Her stats couldn't allow her to fight back much easily anyway. So the outcome was almost unavoidable. She cut offline Kaito with that serve. That's the serve of 66 and it's forehand of 61 only. Let's open some bags and then you will see the lineup for my Victoria. If you change Victoria for Kaito, you have the same, exactly the same lineup that they use for the other matches to upset the high serve players. Well, I hope you enjoy watching me play those matches and upset those high serve players having big forehand in Tour 7 of Tennis Clash, a sports game published by Wi-Fi Studios. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel Gameplay 365 to stay tuned for new videos of Tennis Clash. Thank you a lot for your support and see you soon in Gameplay 365. Bye bye.